What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Musings podcast studio. I am very excited to be joined today on his very first ever
Yep.
podcast appearance, Mr. Clay Rozman. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, James. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you, and I'm honored to be your first podcast that you've ever been
Yeah.
on, man. This is very cool.
Yeah,
So
it's super cool.
we got connected because of Mr. Raymar Brunson,
Yep.
the uber talented Raymar Brunson. I would say that Raymar is going to be one of these standout people that everybody's talking about in a couple of years. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, just coming across him on Instagram, seeing his work ethic was super inspiring. He's always out doing stuff. He's always drawing. He's always going live. And just his style is just, it fits so good in the comics that when I first saw it, I was thinking, how is this guy not working for like any of those big publishers yet?
Exactly. Yeah, I
And
saw it and I
yep.
thought the same thing, man.
Yeah, so I was like, I gotta work with this guy when I still can. So that's
Before he
how it
gets too
started.
big, too big for you,
Yep,
he gets too busy, right?
yep, definitely.
Now you are a writer by trade. That's your main forte, right?
Yep, writer by trade, dabble in a little bit of lettering. The whole process really of comic books interests me when it comes down to color theory or pencils, inking.
Yeah.
Anything like that is really interesting to me, but sadly, my artistic skills have never been very great. And so the best way I can get my ideas across usually come from words.
Now, did you develop that love of writing at a young age?
Yeah, it's interesting that you ask because the way it sort of started was kind of as I was exiting the world of like playing toys as a kid, playing with action figures, playing with Batman's, Power Rangers, what have you. Uh, I was sort of entering, let's see, like early middle school era, and a way for me to sort of enjoy my imagination in the same vein would be writing little stories on like a Sunday afternoon, and usually they were very like Goosebumps inspired because I was reading a lot of those books at the time.
Nice.
And so that kind of stuck around, and it'd be every once in a while I'd like to write a little story, and that kind of flowed through high school too.
Okay.
Yep.
And I would say, judging by your very full
Yes.
bookshelf behind you, that comics have been a love for quite some time.
Oh yeah. Quite some time. But the way it really kind of started was same thing. Like I said, I was introduced to like action figures and toys, and the first standout was really Batman to me. And that was in the days of Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited. So early 2000s era.
Okay.
And
So you kind of the gateway drug was the cartoons?
absolutely,
Yeah.
yep, that was the gateway drug for sure, where I latched onto that real hard and said, this is it. This is my thing. And I'll consume whatever is put out there.
Okay, so was it a matter of like you learned about the characters via the cartoons and then you were like, I want to know more, and then you started looking for the kind of the source material and
Yeah.
gravitated towards the books?
Yeah. The way that started with going towards the comics was I think my grandma took a really big notice in me liking Batman and Superman and all these superheroes. And she would bring me these stacks of comics that were from like the thrift store or from like an antique store. So my
Okay.
first like, stack of comics was a lot of books from like the 70s to early 90s. I remember
Oh,
a lot of
cool.
Death of Superman in there. So 90s, a lot of Nightfall, a lot of like those 90s books that were printing
Yeah.
huge quantities at the time, right?
That's funny because, I can tell you're much younger than me, but the fact that the 90s stuff
Yeah.
was something you came to, and also the fact that you were, kind of getting some of the older stuff is really cool. So it sounds like you had a wide variety of influence as far as what you were
Yeah.
looking at, because a lot of us, we come up with the certain generation that is of our youth, right? So it's
Yep.
like, for me it was like, oh, 90s was my jam. That was kind of the comics I came up with, and I didn't get into the older stuff until later on. Sounds like you were being you got informed by some of the older stuff and influenced by it from the beginning.
Yeah. In a weird way, a lot of those beginning stuff was like that. Like I remember a lot of Mark Grunwald's Captain America was in there. Uh, Funny enough, the first Batman book I ever got was I think it's issue 251 where he's plastered on the big card and Joker's in the background,
Oh yeah.
which I didn't know as a kid. It was like a kind of a key issue. So I read that thing to bits and it's sitting in a plastic bag right now. It's just falling apart.
It was well loved.
Yep. It was well loved. And at the time I remember being, why is Batman bright blue? That doesn't make sense to me because
Yeah.
on the cartoon, he's wearing all black and in Batman Begins, he's all black. So I'm seeing all these different iterations at once and kind of learning about the history at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. In You kind of alluded to the fact that you might have had some aspirations to want to pick up artwork and draw, but it just
Yeah.
wasn't in the cards for you, so to speak.
Yeah. I have a twin sister actually, and she's always been the artist of the family where she can draw like no other. She's
Right.
always been able to pick up a paintbrush and go to town. And I would try to make my little sketches, and it was just like I could never flow from my mind through the pen. Like I
Yeah.
would, you know,
You felt a
yeah,
little of a disconnect there in being able to express yourself and bring what was in your mind's eye into reality in that regard. So it
absolutely.
it sounds like you're ready made to be a writer though, because then
Yeah.
you pivoted and you started to get creative with your writing, and sounds like you were kind of getting into some stories and creativity from a young age with that. You were talking about, before we came on, playing with toys and then coming up
Yeah.
with little stories and ideas and things. So take me through that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So, as any kid does when they're playing with all their Batmans or their Power Rangers or whatever on the table or the floor, I would just kind of make up these missions and they would go on these grand adventures where, the Batmobile would blow up or Robin would get kidnapped or,
Yeah.
you know, Joker had taken Commissioner Gordon hostage. And I would just kind of follow that thread until I came to some natural conclusion. It was like, yeah, that was a great day.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when was it that you kind of really started to take that seriously and hone those skills and actually
Mhm.
like writing these ideas down, and maybe even, starting to come up with your ideas of your own and your own creations?
Yeah, that was probably late middle school, early high school was when I had started writing more just for fun at that point, where I was really inspired by a lot of my interest in like horror and sci-fi was really starting to peak. And I was making my way through all these movies. And at that point, the comics had fully blown up and I was knee deep in all the comics that I could find and reading as much as I could. But I started really taking it seriously just when uh, I could write what I wanted to write. And I would recognize that, hey, I wish there was a book out there that was some similar story that I have in my head, but there's not. So I'm gonna pursue that and just kind of tell myself the story and see where it goes and see what comes from it.
So with your writing,
Right.
did you kind of
Yeah.
remain would you consider yourself self-taught in regard to writing, or did you start to delve into looking
Mhm.
into books about writing and that type of stuff?
Yeah. So for a long time, it was really self-taught. After high school, I went to college for mechanical engineering. I'm a mechanical engineer now, and uh, the writing really took a backseat, and it kind of faded out for a while as I started sort of my adult career and things like that. But once I kind of just fell back into it, where I found out about this program called Comics Experience, run by Andy Schmidt and Paul Aller and Gamal Hennessy, a bunch of really cool guys, where they have these online classes that teach you the basics of writing a script or writing for a story, or they have classes for coloring and lettering and drawing and what have you. And I saw that as like kind of a reintroduction way where I could gain some information about writing for an actual comic book. Because for the longest time, I was just writing really clunky prose. I didn't know how to write a comic book. I didn't know what a comic book script was for a long time.
Right.
And once I figured out that, oh, an artist gets a script, they work off that. You have to outline it panel by panel usually. Or, there's the Marvel method, which changes things a lot too.
Definitely.
Once I kind of figured out that there's existing infrastructure out there that can teach people, I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, in regard to that, like full script, Marvel method, this type of thing, what's your preference? Are you one of these writers that really wants to lock down, like, panel 1, Batman's crouching on a rooftop, panel 2, he leaps, and like you're really describing the environment, the setting, the actions of the character? Or do you like to keep it a little more open for the artist to be able to bring their talents and their interpretation to what you're writing for them?
Yeah. So the way that I kind of view it is I want to provide the best product to the artist as possible first. And I accept and I know that they can take that and they will do what they will with it. So the way I really start is I'll write a full script panel by panel. Sometimes panels can be a bit detailed. Sometimes it's really open where I'll just say person A takes the staff from person B, and once I kind of have a script lined out with panels per page, I give it to the artist and I say, this is it. Here's my ideas. There's some reference images in the back. If you think there's a better way to do it, or if I'm missing a beat, if you need to include a panel, if you need to stretch something out, if you need to throw something on a different page, I trust you and go for it.
Nice. So you give them that room if they're like, because I've talked to artists in the past and sometimes they're like, writers don't always understand what can be done on a page, right? So they'll often write something that's just not easy to translate into a series of panels, or like won't fit, all of it won't fit on a single page. It really needs to be 3 pages or something like that. So you're giving the artist room to communicate that to you and change things up a little bit if they need to, while remaining within the confines of telling the story.
Yeah, exactly. As long as we're telling the story, it's fine with me. I love those books that like those deluxe editions that'll have the scripts in the back and the layouts, because I love to go through and compare. Okay, let's say Frank Miller wrote this and then someone else drew it a tad differently, and seeing how those things flip flop and change. But I kind of come to the realization that it's never going to exactly be what's in your head. If you want it to be exactly what it was in your head, you should go draw it. So I accept that it's always going to be a little different, but every time it's been a bit different when I've made a comic book, it's always been.
Now, let's go back to talking about Mr. Raymar a little bit more, because you guys connected, I'm assuming through Instagram or something. Did you reach out to him or did he reach out to you and you guys started collaborating a little bit?
Yeah, we kind of just started messaging through Instagram, just kind of chit-chatting and stuff, talking about potential projects, things to work on. Because once I saw his art, I was like, oh, we got to do something here. And there's a day that he just posted, I think it was on his story, just saying, I really want to get some practice writing straight from a script. And I was like, ding dong, that's my way in, you
There
know?
you
So
go.
I messaged him and I was like, yo, I'll write you a 5-page story and we can make a zine out of it. We'll see what happens. Give me some ideas and I'll throw some back at you.
Now, is this fairly recent?
Yeah. No.
Was this the Batman
Yep. Yeah. So
one?
that was that Batman ash can that we made.
That was amazing,
Um,
man.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's how we got connected
That
because
too. Yeah.
you were helping fulfill those when Raymar announced that. He's like, "Hey, make sure you get a hold of Clayton and let him know if you want one." And then I connected with you, and you didn't
Yep.
send me one, you send me two, man. You're awesome.
Yeah. No, I've sent most people too, actually, because I want to give them away. I
Yeah,
think we printed 200. Raymar has 100 and I have 100. And I've already given away around 50 or so
yeah.
just for fun for all my friends and people on Instagram, to connect with. It's been a really great tool for that.
Now, was this one of the first times you've done something like that and actually seen something all the way through with an artist to print and had physical books in hand to give out, or did you explore that a little bit more in the past with some other artists?
Yeah. So as far as prints wise, this is the second story that I have out there in print, I guess you could say. The first story was called Ritual Knives. Uh, that's just a 5-page fantasy horror story that, funny enough, I wrote that in my comics experience class.
Okay.
And I never thought it would really see the light of day, but I ended up just finding an artist and saying, let's just make it and see what happens. And I submitted it to Alternate Comics, their anthology series. It came out on a Wednesday. It was one of the few anthology books out there that I could find that was taking just open submissions. And it got picked up by Pete Finetti, and I was kind of over the moon that the first script I made that turned into a comic got to get out there. So
Dude, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it has to be surreal. Like I remember way back in the 90s, I had some work published in an anthology with some buddies. So we did some little indie stuff and published some of our stories and everything. And even though like, you know, gosh, back then my art was very, very horrible, but just just actually having your stuff in a book and like having it in hand and having friends want to buy it. And I remember our
yep,
local shop like let us put copies of it out to sell and stuff like
yep.
that. It's surreal, isn't it?
It was, yeah. The day the box came, it was like Christmas morning. Where it's saying something that was really just an idea in my head for the longest time, just in this little weird 5-page story. It was just absolutely mind blowing. I was made me really realize that, oh, I want to keep doing this. I want to make
Yeah.
longer. So if I want to get more stuff out there, all that.
Yeah, it becomes something tangible, right? It's like, oh man,
Yep.
I'm actually holding this in my hand now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's such a special thing, and in having that access to be able to, well, gosh, nowadays we have it even more because there are so many more tools available for us
Yeah.
to get our work printed. Um, whether you're paying for it out of your own pocket or whether you're doing a Kickstarter or something, there's just
Hmm.
all these different methods of achieving that. So like would you encourage like anybody with that passion and everything? It's like just do it, man. Like make something. It doesn't have to be perfect, right?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like similar to that you said with the stuff that you had published, you said it was bad and you would
Yeah.
change it. Uh, with that first story, I would change so many things looking back. Hindsight's 2020, but
Yeah.
I got told really early on that the way to break into comics is to make comics.
Yeah, because you're showing
And
that you can
yep,
actually do the work, right?
yep.
What
And
better
so
way to prove that you can do the work than to actually have something like that to show?
exactly. So I've just taken that to heart, and everything that I'm writing, I'm just trying to make and get out there in some sort of way.
And we got to talk a little bit more about the Batman zine.
Yeah.
So, for the listeners, let's not assume that everybody knows what a zine is. but essentially my description of it would be like you're using a copyrighted character or characters, and
Yep.
you can't sell that.
Nope. Oh no.
So otherwise we get into cease and desist letters from Warner
Yep.
Brothers and DC and everything, right? So with the zine, you're making this out of passion. You guys are paying for it out of your own pocket. Raymar's drawing it, you're
Yep.
writing it, and then you get them printed, and then people like me get to benefit because you just sent it to me.
Yep. Yeah.
So
So it's
that encapsulates a zine, right?
absolutely, they're kind of a DIY way to get some work out there. And, uh, pretty often than not, it's sort of like, I consider it kind of a punk thing to do because it's a legally held character. I don't want to get sued. I'd rather work for DC. We wrote
Yeah.
that in the line
And
in
you have
Zine.
disclaimers in there.
Yeah. Hey, this isn't for sale or profit. We Please don't sue us, CC. We'd rather work
Yeah.
for you. You know. Uh, so the way that works is you can't sell it, but you can give it away. And as long as as long as you're not selling it, you should be
So
okay.
right up there with fan fiction, right?
Sort of,
Same
yeah.
same
Sort
same
of
sort
based
of
on it.
idea in a way.
Mhm.
Except with fan fiction, I assume a lot of that's online and stuff. I don't know how many people are like getting actual novels printed out and
Yeah,
printed up and sending them to people. But yeah, the comic book medium, it really gives the ability to do that. And then, like we touched on a little bit ago, essentially now you have a portfolio piece.
exactly. Yeah, it's a really great way, and it's a really great tool to talk to people, to network. And this summer at Denver Comic Con, where I live in Denver, uh, I was giving them out to writers. I gave one to Scott Snyder of all people. I was just like, "Hey,
Nice.
well, I give this to you. Hope you like it," and things like that. It's just a good way to just introduce yourself by just giving somebody a comic book.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm gonna make a not probably too far of a leap here and assume that you admire Scott's writing.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
His New 52 run was coming out when I was in high school, and what can't be said that's already been said about that run.
Yeah.
So, and then
Yeah,
with Absolute Batman these days,
I'm telling you, I feel
killing it.
like he's killing it. I feel like DC has got a resurgence going on here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, with the absolute titles, specifically Absolute Batman, like Absolute Wonder Woman was actually really good too. I ended up really enjoying that one, but
Mhm.
I think it definitely got overshadowed by the
Yeah,
epicness
the
of a
hype of
of
Batman
a
was
of
so
a
big.
6'9", 425
Yeah,
pound Batman as they list him.
yeah, it's basically Hulk Batman. You
Now,
know.
now your Bane, in
Mhm.
contrast, your Bane was more of a comic accurate, proportioned Bane
Yeah. So
as far as OG style original Bane.
yes, yeah. Raymar and I actually talked about that. We talked about how we wanted Bane to look, and Nightfall is probably one of my favorite Batman sagas that's out there. And I said, let's try to keep him around a little more of a smaller size, kind of that Chuck Dixon era
Yeah, he was more like a
Batman.
Tom Hardy Bane.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't include the Venom tubes or anything like that. It kind of in our head canon, he was past that point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And with that story, how long had that been percolating in the back of your brain?
Oh, that's a really good question because uh Raymar gave me three characters. He had three characters that he wanted to write a story for. It was either Batman, Punisher, or Wolverine. And I said, let's
All
do Batman.
all of
They're
which
all great.
Raymar would shine on.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'd be really cool if we could do a Punisher one or a Wolverine one as well.
Yeah.
Uh, but he picked, well, I picked Batman, and I said, you pick a villain. And he was the one who chose Bane. So now I'm looking at it like, okay, 5-page story, Batman and Bane. 5 pages, it really isn't a lot of room to work with in terms of story and how much you can really get across in that time frame. It's a 2-minute read, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and so I really just kind of sat down and looked at my bookshelf, thought about, okay, what would I like to see in these 5 pages? What do I want to see Batman do? What do I want to see Bane say?
Yeah.
And why would they be in conflict? You know?
Yeah, and you had a lot more of a cerebral, calculated Bane as
Yeah.
opposed to just the brawn in the, like you said, no, he doesn't have the tubes,
Yeah.
delivering. He's just he seemed very like calculated and kind of a a lot smarter, I would say, than I'd seen him portrayed in a lot of books in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest overlooked things about his character is that while he's this giant, strong guy, he's such a strategist. And that's what really makes him Batman's equal sometimes
Yeah.
is he's a strategist. He thinks about all the ways things could happen, and he's a planner. So that was really the driving force behind his character when I wrote that.
Now, I know that you like Batman and in this, these characters in the DC universe. Are there any and you mentioned Wolverine or Punisher because Raymar mentioned those ones would be cool. Like,
Yeah.
are you kind of equal a Marvel or DC guy, or do you lean towards one or the other a little bit more? Because I'm looking at your
Yeah.
bookshelf. I see a lot
Yeah.
of DC stuff up
It's
there.
yeah. This bookshelf behind me is the DC shelf for sure.
Okay.
That was really kind of the world that really introduced me to superheroes and comic books. So that's always been, in a weird way, kind of like my home base in terms of my reading.
Right.
But over time, I've read tons of Marvel as well. I have a bunch of Marvel on the shelf that you can't see, but a lot of that. And through once I got through like the end of high school and through college, I was reading a lot of indie stuff, a lot of Image, a lot of Dark Horse. Uh, Lately, it's a lot of European stuff too. I'm just finding that there's such an amazing market out there.
Oh man, and
So,
not only from the perspective of writing, but art.
oh, absolutely.
They have some insanely
Yeah,
talented artists.
yeah. It's almost like I look at some of these European books and I go, just like, where's this been? Like my entire life, and why aren't you drawing the book for
Right.
Image that everyone else can see?
What do you think the defining if you could define the differences between their writing versus the writing in American comics?
Mm,
What do you think sets them apart or stands out to you as something that you would like to take and apply to your own work?
that's a tough question.
Right? Intentionally.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think the first thing that really pops in my head is there's a lot more mood that's portrayed through European comics, whether that's like Kaza or Dylan Dog or Tex, things like that. Uh, and a lot more. I think it's a lot more character based instead of there's no shared universes.
Okay.
Most of these are all just a single character that's driving the force of their story, and we're just exploring the world with them.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. In the stuff that you mentioned, I could see that for sure.
Hmm.
Now, you're drawing inspiration from a lot of different places.
Yeah, so many.
And how much time are you spending now writing? Is this like a daily endeavor for you? Do you try to make at least, hour or two a day where you sit down with focused concentration and you write and you brainstorm ideas and this type of thing?
Yeah, it's I carry around a like this little moleskin notebook with me when I go to work or just when I'm driving and doing errands, and that's like kind of my idea book where something strikes me. I'll write it down, jot it down, because if I don't, usually they kind of just fade away into oblivion, right? Uh, in terms of like writing, I want to be more disciplined. I Since working a full time job right now, it's a bit tough to find the time.
For sure.
And so a lot of my time is really on weekends and sporadically on weeknights.
Yeah,
But I try to block out a lot of time because, art's really a muscle. And if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
it's so true.
So true.
Yeah. I have my daily reminder to draw 30 minutes.
That's
I,
great. Yeah.
I set the bar low because I know it's like if you say, "Oh, I'm going to draw 2 hours when I have the time," it's like if you don't get that much done, you get discouraged. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
And sometimes
if
that 2 hours can feel daunting, right?
yeah, so it's like if
Yep.
I say 30 minutes, like that's easy. And then I get lost in it. And before I know it, I have drawn for an hour or two. It's like
Yep.
frosting on the cake, right? And I come away with a win in a sense because I not only knocked out the 30 minutes, but I got a little extra.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sort of the same way where I'll say, okay, let's try to write just like a page tonight. Let's get through that. Before you know it, I've written 3 pages, then I have the next three outlined of what I think I want to get
Yeah.
done.
You get in
Things
that
like
flow
that.
state.
Yeah, that's really the best way for me when I'm writing is getting into that flow state. And then I'm also trying to be conscious of sometimes when that flow state doesn't show up, you kind of just got to power through it because that's where you're going to make a lot of mistakes and you learn from them and you get a lot of empowerment from that, I think.
Yeah. Do you find you're more inspired to write when you have that direction of creating something for an artist to collaborate with?
That's a good question too. I think, especially like with the Batman zine with Raymar, I definitely felt a lot more motivation because I knew it wasn't going to be a story that was just going to be a script on my computer for who knows how long, right?
Right.
And there's a little bit of camaraderie there too, right? Where I want to give Raymar a really good product and a really good story that he looks at and goes, heck yeah, I want to draw the crap out of this. And just, it makes the whole project better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that mutual camaraderie and everything, and I'm sure you could get each other pumped up because
Yeah.
when you're seeing the stuff he's coming back to you with, that was just words that were in your brain that went down
Yep.
on the paper, and then you're seeing it brought to life. That has to really light a fire within.
Totally. It totally does.
So we've talked more about like writing for mainstream existing properties. Do you have, uh, I'm sure you do. I know it's a silly question. You have creator owned stuff. You got some stories in your brain that you would like to see brought to life that are your own original creations?
Yeah. So I've written that 5 page story that was in the anthology. I have another 10 pager that I'm gonna soon try to print some ash cans for. It's like a sci-fi post-apocalyptic story. That one's completely done with art and everything as well. Um, then the meat of really my work over the past year and a half has been a 3 issue horror western that I've been writing. That has been kind of the driving force behind all my writing lately is and that. Um, and it'll be on Kickstarter probably next spring or so. We're just starting to get
Oh,
pages back.
nice.
Uh, yeah, it'll be 80 pages, first
Sweet.
real like long story form that I'll be doing.
Well, that's a great segue because the next thing I wanted to ask you was what are you working on that's going to
Yep.
be coming out that you can talk about? So that sounds like that's well into the works right now.
Yeah. So it's called Yellow Moon. It takes a lot of influence from like some of the 70s Jonah Hex books, uh, Alien, John Carpenter, The Revenant. If you put kind of all that into a blender, that's sort of what the story is going to be.
Nice.
It's about like a French mountain man in Colorado and his sidekick dog because you always got to have a cool sidekick along the way,
Exactly.
right? And they get dispatched to a remote mining town that has ceased communication with the outside world, and they need to find out what's going on. Things aren't
Okay.
as they seem, and I'll leave it at that.
That's the elevator pitch.
Yeah, that's the elevator pitch.
Nice. Now, uh, you have a artist, a singular artist that you're working with on that one?
Yeah, so I have an editor and an artist on the project. The editor is Chris Stevens. He's done some stuff with like Clover Press, a lot of freelance stuff. The Marvel art of a few artists I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I've heard the name, so I know I've seen his name
Yeah,
in some things.
Yeah, he's really cool. He's been kind of like my Jedi master if I was the Padawan, you know. He's
Nice.
helped me clean up some of the script and introduce some ideas that have pushed me to make it a little bit better, things like that. And then the artist on the book is Bruno Letizia. And he's in Italy, and he hasn't done a whole lot in the American market, I believe, but his art is, it just blows me away getting these pages back in, that he's drawing it and coloring it, and it just looks so amazing. So
Oh wow. Yeah,
yep,
it's that combination. Yeah, when an artist colors themselves, it's
yep,
when you find one that's the right fit, it can be phenomenal to really bring everything to life, right? Because I've had a couple of colorists on recently. One of them was with Steve Cannon. He's doing a lot of work for McFarlane now. He's colored a lot of the covers that are coming out, and I had him on, and then it hasn't been released yet, but I had another gentleman on, and we were talking about just how much the colors can make or break the
huge,
artwork.
yep,
So
yeah. Colors are huge.
yeah, especially when, coming from the perspective of a writer, if you have a certain mood that you're trying to set in a scene or in
Yep,
a sequential art sequence, and then, say it's a gritty, moody, depressed portion of the story, and then the colorist is coming in and putting bright, happy colors in there,
yep,
it kind of plays against itself, right?
yeah, totally. You gotta, sometimes colors just almost subconsciously will tell the reader the mood of the scene. And then it's interesting when you mentioned like bright, happy colors with like a sad scene. And like sometimes you want that. You want to kind of juxtapose that. The
Yes.
first thing that comes to brain is like the Ice Cream Man books, right?
Yep.
Um, Weird cerebral horror, but mixed with this strawberry and vanilla and chocolate, all
Yep.
this rainbow stuff. So it's
Yeah,
this
it's
weird.
different when it's intentional, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, when it's calculated and intentional, it can really like tweak the reader's brain and cause
yep,
that effect, that reaction or that feeling that you're trying to express.
mhm,
So with this, you're doing a lot of creator owned stuff, original creations. You're
yep.
gonna have the Kickstarter coming out next year. Do you have aspirations to do some work for Marvel, DC, Image, any of the other publishers?
Yeah,
Are you
whatever.
pretty fulfilled in the creator stuff though? If that never happened,
Mhm.
it seems to me like you're happy doing what you're doing at this scale right now.
Yeah, I'm really just happy making comics no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, it's something just really cool to see something that you've made and goes on your shelf right next to all the other books out there in the world. Um,
But
but
if if Marvel
more,
or
I mean,
DC came a knocking,
not, I mean, I would never say no. It would really be a dream come true for what work for any of those, or Dark Horse, Image, Boom, Vault, any of them really.
do
So
you see yourself in a certain character's universe? Do you have somewhere you would gravitate towards if given the choice? Like, let's say for Marvel,
mhm.
what title would be like your dream title to work on? And for DC, what would be your dream
Yeah,
titles to work on?
for Marvel, it would probably be either Thor or Ghost Rider. I
Oh,
really
nice.
like both of those characters, but I also really enjoy the Werewolf by Night books. I
Yeah.
recently got through that omnibus from all this 70s stuff, and I was like, oh, I would love to play in that sandbox with that character.
Yeah, there's some great stuff in there.
Yeah, definitely. So that would be Marvel. For DC, I think everyone probably knows who's listening at this point. Is the obvious answer would be Batman, but that's kind of
Yeah.
like you got to level up and level up and level up to really get to that point. But some of the lesser known characters that I really love, like Phantom Stranger, the Spectre, some of those kind of weirder horror toned characters, I think are so interesting. Etrigan the Demon, Jason
Yeah.
Blood. Uh,
So you think that
yeah.
you tend to gravitate a little more towards the darker horror-esque type of
Yeah, as
books?
time has gone on, I've just kind of gravitated towards those weirder characters. And they always kind of have a special place in my heart, you know?
What if DC said we want you to write Superman?
Oh, I mean, I would love that too.
Would
So,
do you feel like you could come up with a unique take on that character, because he's such a iconic character, right? Like it's one of
mhm.
those where it'd be, what could I do that was a little bit different than what everybody else has done?
Yeah, there's certainly a fair amount of pressure I'd probably put on myself with Superman. You know, there's this whole huge 85-year history. He's part of the zeitgeist. I genuinely love the character, so I wouldn't want to do any sort of disservice. Uh, as far as original ideas, I would probably have to lock myself in a room for a long time and just kind of
Yeah,
dig deep. So, but I think I could do it.
that would be awesome. Yeah, I always like to see people kind of get pushed outside the bounds of what's in their wheelhouse,
Totally.
because sometimes that inspires a different level of creativity when you get pushed outside that kind of comfort zone, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I think being pushed outside your comfort zone is a really healthy thing, especially when it comes to your art or your writing, even your job. You know, it's what's going to make you better in the long run.
Yeah.
So anything that I can do to push myself is definitely something I want to do.
As far as mainstream comics right now, what do you tend to find yourself reading these days?
Yeah. So for Main Street Comics, I'm a tad behind on monthlies. I've
Okay.
really switched to trades and hardcovers pretty recently, so I'm a bit behind.
That's the
And
binge watching of the
yep,
comic world,
yep,
the trades and
I
everything.
binge. Yeah. So I kind of switch off. I have a huge bookshelf of books that I'm working my way through, and I for some reason still keep buying stuff.
I'm the same way, man.
Yeah. So it's like looking at my bookshelf right now. I got the Philip Kennedy Johnson Superman I want to run through. I got Matt Wagner's Grendel, a bunch of Boom books, Cullen Bunn's The Empty Man, some Conan stuff, a bunch of European things. It's way too big of a bookshelf that
Yeah.
of unread stuff. So
Speaking of Boom, did you read Once in Future by Dan Mora?
I have not, but it's on the list.
That's
Yep.
another trade, or big book you got to get on your shelf. I have the giant, really thick one, the bigger
At the
size
Lux.
one that they came
Yep.
out with, and yeah, that's where I first discovered Dan Mora's art,
Yeah, and
and
then the DC picked him up.
and now
It's
he's drawing like 6 books a month.
yeah, that work ethic wise for that, I don't know how you do it, but man,
And covers for
no man.
everything.
Yep.
He's everywhere.
Yeah. Him, Jorge Jimenez,
Yep.
really just stellar up there right now in terms
Yeah,
of DC.
I'd really like to, and I got to try to get both of them on here. I'd really like to get a better understanding of their workflow and how
Hmm.
they are so incredibly productive without sacrificing anything in their art. Like the
Hmm.
level of their art stays up here regardless of the workload. So I'm really impressed by that. And I know both of those guys are 100% digital. Like they
Yep.
do all their art digitally. So I'm wondering, like, not that there's shortcuts they're using, but that workflow, there's got to be some things in there they've done to streamline that, to just increase the productivity.
Yeah, and obviously I can't speak for them, but if I was in their shoes, I would just need a really hard structure
Yeah.
to work on, and then hopefully there's a really good editorial team that's working, helping you work ahead, so
Yeah,
you're
that's
not
what I
reaching any hard deadlines.
yeah, that would be my guess, is that they're staying ahead of the curve there. Like they are
Mhm.
very much by the time we see something, they've already got like 4 issues done by the
Exactly.
time the solicitation for the first issue has come out.
Yep.
Yeah, I find that's the standard I had to set for myself when doing this podcast. When I
Mhm.
had the idea to do the podcast, I had a podcast previously that was more in line with my profession of being a full time, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu instructor for over, gosh, I'm gonna date myself here. Well over 22 years as a full time
Wow.
jujitsu instructor running my business. And I had a podcast where I had people from that world on, and it didn't last. Like, I got up to like 18 episodes or whatever and dropped
Mhm.
off. But it was because I didn't set that structure and have that plan for myself. So when I decided I wanted to do this, I made a rule for myself that I had to remain like 3 to 4 episodes ahead at all times. So
I think that's
before
perfect.
one comes out, there's got to be 3 or 4 others in the can.
Yeah.
Because
And
I
that
knew
helps you learn if anything goes wrong or
exactly.
you need
Or,
to
hey,
schedule something differently.
I get a week off or something, I don't have to stress. I'm like, oh,
Exactly.
I got this one already edited, ready to go. It's scheduled to come out. Like, I'm good to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think planning is a huge part to setting yourself up for that and making sure that you're, well, if you're in a comics, making deadlines and this type of thing.
Yeah. I think people who work professionally in comics have to have a lot of really great self discipline because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, a lot of these people are, you work from home, you're in a room by yourself all day. You're the one that has to make sure that page gets done or that script gets done or
Yep.
those colors get done and sent out to everybody. So it's hard, but I think it's absolutely worth it.
Well, as we approach the end here, I had one last thing I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to ask you, because I talk a lot to artists about their workflow, but I
Mhm.
want to talk to you about your workflow. I see your whiteboard over there. I know you
Yeah,
got ideas jotted down, probably some outlines and things. Like, how do you approach your creative process when it comes to writing?
that's a tough question. It's a good question. The way I really start is I have an idea. I write down the idea, and it's really kind of a point A to point B idea. What happens? How does it end? I don't really know anything about the middle yet, and I just kind of start writing in it's almost sort of a broken prose style where I'm writing the movement, I'm writing dialogue, and I'm just kind of traveling down the path of the story and seeing what happens.
Okay. So, like,
Uh,
the artist equivalent would be thumbnailing a
yeah,
drawing,
yeah,
right?
yep. So you're sort of writing thumbnails in a way, and once I have some sort of first draft, and no matter how good or how bad that first draft is, I then kind of try to break it up into like structures in a way, whether that's like a 3-act structure or a 7-act structure, something that's going to help me figure out the pacing of the story and then figuring out how I want to structure a scene, and how does one scene bleed into the next and things like that. Uh, it's a lot of writing and revising and writing and revising and writing and revising
Tightening it
over.
up, right?
Yeah. And for instance, like for Yellow Moon for the Kickstarter next year, I wrote probably, gosh, 5, 6 broken prose drafts, and then that devolved into 10 to 12 script drafts, and eventually it's just tightened up. And I think that's kind of the key to writing. You just got to rewrite all the time.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear, man. Yeah, it's funny the similarity between that and creating a piece of art,
Mhm.
of drawing something. It's like the thumbnail stage and then all these revisions of tightening it up and cleaning it up and everything. It sounds like a very similar process that you take with your writing.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes if something's not working, you just got to throw it out and start at point A again. And you just got to be okay with that. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Learn from the mistakes and move forward, right?
yeah, definitely.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you spending some time with me today. It's been wonderful. I hope your first podcast experience was a good one.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Awesome. And I'd love to have you back on, especially get you back on here when the Kickstarter is getting ready to launch so we can let everybody know.
Definitely. I appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure, man. I want to give you the spotlight here at the end to let everybody know where to follow you and make sure that they can keep up on all the updates and the announcement once the Kickstarter goes live and all that good stuff. The spotlight is yours. Let them know where to find you.
Awesome. Yeah. Most interaction I tend to do is on Instagram. The way you can find me is at ClaytonR_comics. I try to post there a lot and comment and message people and just have a good time. I also have a website, ClaytonRosman.com, and there you can find all three of the comics that I've made so far. You can just download those PDFs for free and check them out. And then, yeah, Yellow Moon will be coming out next spring, next summer. Excited to share that with the world.
Awesome, brother. Well, everybody listening, make sure you go out, support Clayton's stuff. He's an awesome guy, very talented writer. You're going to want to get on with his work in the beginning here, the early stages before he gets too famous for all of us. Clayton, hang out with me for a moment here while I give everybody the spiel. Everybody, if you're listening, that means you found the podcast. I greatly appreciate you, your kind words. I've been getting a lot of awesome comments about how much everybody's enjoying listening to all the different creators we have on, and I appreciate you all. Please consider giving us a like, a subscribe, a follow, share with a friend. It just helps more people be able to see the podcast and know it exists. And in the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy.
Keep it nerdy.